The fluorescent lights in the 24-hour laundromat buzzed and flickered with an electrical irregularity that cast eerie shadows across the rows of washing machines and dryers at 2:30 in the morning, creating an atmosphere that felt more like a scene from a horror movie than the familiar neighborhood facility where I had been doing my laundry for the past 8 months. I had chosen this particular laundromat because of its convenient location near my apartment and its round-the-clock availability that allowed me to handle my washing during off-peak hours when the machines were available and the prices were lower than the crowded daytime periods. But tonight was different. Tonight, the normally mundane task of washing clothes had become something sinister and threatening, as I realized that I was not alone in the supposedly empty laundromat and that the other person present was not there to do laundry. The man sitting in the corner had been watching me since I arrived, his eyes following my every movement as I loaded my clothes into the washing machines and tried to maintain the routine normalcy of a simple household chore. He had no laundry basket, no detergent, no clothes to wash, just an intense focus on my activities that made it clear his presence in the laundromat had nothing to do with cleaning clothes, and everything to do with whatever dark intentions had brought him to this isolated location during the vulnerable overnight hours when help was far away and witnesses were non-existent. My name is Lisa, and that night taught me that 24-hour laundromats aren't just convenient facilities for late-night washing. They're hunting grounds where predators use the isolation, predictability, and vulnerability of overnight customers to identify and attack victims who are focused on mundane tasks and unaware of the dangers lurking in the fluorescent-lit spaces where we trust that our routine household activities will remain safe. Ever wondered why some people suddenly stop using certain laundromats after dark? Ever questioned why certain customers seem paranoid about being alone while doing laundry? Comment below if you've felt uncomfortable while doing laundry alone during late-night hours and sensed that someone was watching you with intentions that had nothing to do with washing clothes. Because tonight, I'm sharing 4 true accounts that will make you question every assumption you've made about the safety of routine household activities. These aren't exaggerated stories or urban legends designed to make people afraid of doing laundry. These are real experiences from real people who learned that when you use 24-hour laundromats during overnight hours, you enter environments where your safety depends on the intentions of strangers who may be using the accessibility and isolation of these facilities for purposes that have nothing to do with washing clothes. Sarah Johnson was a 29-year-old nurse who worked rotating shifts at a busy Chicago hospital, requiring her to maintain an irregular schedule that often made it necessary to handle household tasks like laundry during unconventional hours when most people were sleeping or working normal daytime jobs. Sarah had been using a 24-hour laundromat in her neighborhood for over 18 months, taking advantage of the facility's round-the-clock availability to accommodate her unpredictable work schedule. The laundromat where Sarah did her washing was located in a mixed-use commercial area that included several other 24-hour businesses, providing what appeared to be a safe environment with adequate lighting and the potential for assistance from nearby establishments if problems arose during late-night laundry sessions. Sarah had developed efficient routines for completing her laundry quickly and safely. Sarah's laundry routine typically involved visits during overnight hours when the facility was less crowded, and she could complete her washing without competing for machines or dealing with the social dynamics that sometimes made daytime laundromat use stressful or uncomfortable. Sarah had established a comfortable pattern of late-night laundry visits and had never experienced any safety concerns. But during the second week of September 2022, Sarah began to notice that she was being watched during her laundry visits by a man who appeared to be conducting surveillance of her activities rather than doing his own washing. The man would arrive at the laundromat shortly after Sarah and would position himself where he could observe her movements while pretending to read magazines or use his phone. Sarah's concern about the watching individual escalated when she realized that the man was not actually doing any laundry, but was instead using the laundromat as a base for observing and following her activities. The man would arrive without laundry supplies and would leave shortly after Sarah completed her washing, suggesting that his presence was entirely focused on surveillance. Share this video if you've ever noticed someone at a laundromat who wasn't actually doing laundry but seemed focused on watching other customers. Because what Sarah discovered about this stalker as tactics proved that some predators use the predictable nature of laundry routines to identify and pursue victims who are vulnerable during late-night household activities. The surveillance behavior became more obvious and threatening when the man began to follow Sarah outside the laundromat, tracking her movements to her car and apparently gathering information about her vehicle and her route home. Sarah realized that the man was using her predictable laundry schedule to conduct systematic stalking that extended beyond the laundromat environment. Sarah's attempts to vary her laundry schedule and use different facilities were partially successful in avoiding the stalker, but the man seemed to be conducting broader surveillance of Sarah's activities and was able to locate her at alternative laundromats and during different time periods. The stalker's persistence and ability to track Sarah despite her evasive efforts suggested comprehensive surveillance. The situation escalated when Sarah discovered that the stalker had been gathering information about her work schedule at the hospital and was using his knowledge of her professional activities to predict when she would need to do laundry and which facilities she was likely to use. The stalker's intelligence about Sarah's work life suggested extensive research into her routines. The stalking behavior reached a crisis point when the man began to approach Sarah more directly during her laundry visits, initially making casual conversation, but gradually becoming more personal and intrusive in his questions about her work, her living situation, and her social activities. The stalker's escalation from passive surveillance to direct contact represented a significant increase in threat level. Sarah realized that she was dealing with a sophisticated stalker who was using her laundry routine as an entry point for comprehensive surveillance and harassment that could escalate to assault, kidnapping, or worse. The stalker's knowledge of her schedule and his persistence indicated experience with stalking behavior. Sarah's response to the stalking situation required her to work with law enforcement, hospital security, and laundromat management to document the harassment and implement protection measures. Sarah's cooperation with the investigation led to the stalker's identification and arrest, revealing that he had been targeting multiple women who used 24-hour laundromats. The investigation revealed that the stalker had been operating in multiple neighborhoods throughout Chicago, using 24-hour laundromats as hunting grounds to identify women who appeared vulnerable due to their late-night schedules and their focus on routine household tasks that made them less aware of potential threats. Sarah's experience taught her that 24-hour laundromats could expose customers to stalking and harassment from predators who use the predictable nature of laundry routines and the isolation of late-night facilities to identify and pursue victims. But if you think individual stalkers represent the most dangerous threat that laundromat customers can face, wait until you hear what happened to Marcus in Phoenix. Because sometimes the most terrifying laundromat experiences involve criminals who pose as employees to gain access to customers and their personal belongings, using fake identities to conduct systematic theft operations that exploit the trust people place in facility staff. Marcus Rodriguez was a 34-year-old security guard who worked overnight shifts at various commercial properties throughout Phoenix, requiring him to maintain an irregular schedule that made it necessary to handle personal tasks like laundry during unconventional hours when most laundry facilities were closed or crowded with daytime customers. Marcus had been using 24-hour laundromats for over 3 years to accommodate his work schedule. The laundromat where Marcus typically did his washing was located in an industrial area near several of his work sites, providing convenient access and adequate security due to its location near other businesses that operated during overnight hours. Marcus appreciated the facility's cleanliness, well-maintained equipment, and the generally peaceful atmosphere. Marcus's laundry routine was straightforward and practical, involving regular visits during late evening or early morning hours when he could complete his washing without interfering with his work schedule or competing for machines during peak usage periods. Marcus had established a comfortable pattern and had developed friendly relationships with the actual employees. But during the first week of November 2021, Marcus encountered a man at the laundromat who claimed to be a new employee, but whose behavior and knowledge of the facility suggested that he was not actually employed by the laundromat and was using a false identity to gain access to customers and their personal belongings. Marcus's security training and experience with identifying suspicious behavior made him particularly observant of the fake employee's activities, and he quickly recognized that the man's knowledge of laundromat operations was superficial, and that his interactions with customers were focused on gathering intelligence rather than providing legitimate customer service. Employee, but whose behavior and knowledge of the facility suggested that he was not actually employed by the laundromat and was using a false identity to gain access to customers and their personal belongings. Marcus' security training and experience with identifying suspicious behavior made him particularly observant of the fake employee's activities, and he quickly recognized that the man's knowledge of laundromat operations was superficial and that his interactions with customers were focused on gathering intelligence rather than providing legitimate customer service. Subscribe and turn on notifications if you've ever encountered someone at a laundromat claiming to be an employee but whose behavior seemed suspicious. Because what Marcus discovered about this fake employee's operation proved that some criminal organizations use laundromats as hunting grounds for identity theft and financial fraud that exploit customers' trust in facility staff. The situation became more concerning when Marcus observed the fake employee going through customers' personal belongings while they were distracted with loading or unloading machines, apparently searching for identification documents, financial information, and other materials that could be used for identity theft or other criminal purposes. Marcus's investigation of the fake employee's activities revealed that the man was part of a criminal organization that specialized in identity theft and financial fraud, using 24-hour laundromats as hunting grounds to access personal information from customers who were focused on their laundry and were not carefully monitoring their personal belongings. The fake employee's criminal activities included copying identification documents, stealing financial information, and gathering intelligence about customers' personal lives that could be used for stalking, burglary, and other crimes that exploited the trust and vulnerability of people completing routine household tasks. Marcus's attempts to expose the fake employee and protect other customers required him to work carefully to gather evidence without alerting the criminal to his surveillance, while also ensuring that legitimate customers were warned about the threats to their personal security and financial information. The situation escalated when the fake employee became aware of Marcus' surveillance and began to view him as a threat to the criminal operation, leading to confrontations and threats that made it clear the criminal organization was prepared to use violence to protect their illegal activities. Marcus's cooperation with law enforcement led to a comprehensive investigation that exposed the criminal organization's operations and resulted in multiple arrests of people who had been using 24-hour laundromats throughout the Phoenix area to conduct identity theft and financial fraud. The investigation revealed that the organization had been operating for over 2 years and had victimized hundreds of laundromat customers who had trusted fake employees with access to their personal belongings and information, generating significant revenue through systematic theft operations. Marcus' experience taught him that 24-hour laundromats could be infiltrated by criminal organizations that used fake employee identities to gain access to customers and their personal information, and that laundromat users needed to be cautious about sharing personal information or allowing strangers to handle their belongings. But even identity theft operations seem manageable compared to what happened to Jennifer in Detroit. Because sometimes the most terrifying laundromat experiences involve discovering that the facility you're using is serving as a cover for dangerous criminal operations that put innocent customers at risk of exposure to hazardous materials and violent criminals who view witnesses as threats to be eliminated. Jennifer Walsh was a 26-year-old freelance graphic designer who used a 24-hour laundromat in Detroit's downtown area to handle her laundry needs while maintaining the irregular schedule that her freelance work required. Jennifer had chosen this particular laundromat because of its convenient location near her apartment and its reputation for cleanliness and security. The laundromat was located in a converted basement space beneath a commercial building, with street-level access through a well-lit entrance that provided good visibility and security for customers who used the facility during overnight hours. Jennifer had been using the laundromat for over 8 months and had developed efficient routines. Jennifer's laundry routine typically involved visits during late evening hours when she could complete her washing without competing for machines or dealing with social dynamics that sometimes made daytime laundromat use stressful. Jennifer appreciated the quiet atmosphere and the opportunity to work on her laptop while waiting for wash and dry cycles. But during the third week of August 2023, Jennifer began to notice unusual sounds and activities coming from areas of the basement laundromat that were supposed to be restricted to employees and maintenance personnel. Jennifer would hear voices, movement, and what sounded like construction or renovation activities coming from behind locked doors. Jennifer's investigation of the unusual sounds revealed that sections of the basement facility were being used for purposes that had nothing to do with laundry services and appeared to involve illegal activities that took advantage of the underground location and the limited oversight during overnight hours. Hit that like button if you've ever been in a basement laundromat and heard suspicious activities coming from restricted areas, because what Jennifer discovered about these criminal operations proved that some laundromats serve as covers for dangerous illegal activities that put innocent customers at risk of exposure to hazardous materials and violent confrontations. The situation became more disturbing when Jennifer realized that the illegal activities in the basement involved drug manufacturing, weapons, storage, and other criminal enterprises that posed serious risks to the safety of legitimate laundromat customers who were unaware of the dangerous operations being conducted in adjacent areas. Jennifer's discovery of the criminal activities put her in immediate danger, as the people operating the illegal enterprises became aware of her presence and began to view her as a potential threat to their operations. Jennifer was confronted by individuals who made it clear that her knowledge of their activities was unwelcome. The criminal operators had been using the laundromat as legitimate business operations as a cover for their illegal activities, taking advantage of the basement location and the steady flow of customers to conceal their criminal enterprises from law enforcement detection. Jennifer's attempts to escape from the dangerous situation and report the criminal activities were complicated by the criminals' control of the basement facility and their ability to monitor and restrict access to the exits and communication equipment. The situation escalated when Jennifer discovered that the criminal activities involved the production of dangerous drugs and chemicals that could cause explosions, fires, or toxic exposure that would harm anyone present in the basement facility, including innocent laundromat customers. Jennifer's escape from the dangerous situation required her to use her knowledge of the building's layout and her understanding of the criminals' operational patterns to avoid detection while reaching a location where she could contact law enforcement for assistance. Jennifer ultimately managed to contact law enforcement and provide detailed information about the criminal activities, leading to a major investigation and raid that exposed the illegal operations and resulted in multiple arrests of people who had been using the laundromat facility as a cover for dangerous criminal enterprises. The investigation revealed that the criminal organization had been operating in the basement for over a year, using the legitimate laundromat business to conceal their illegal activities while putting innocent customers at risk of exposure to dangerous materials and violent confrontations. Jennifer's experience taught her that 24-hour laundromats could be used as covers for serious criminal activities that posed risks to innocent customers, and that basement or underground laundry facilities could be particularly vulnerable to infiltration by criminal organizations. But even criminal organizations using laundromats as covers seem manageable compared to what happened to David in Los Angeles. Because sometimes the most sophisticated threats that laundromat customers face involve corrupt employees who exploit their positions of trust and authority to force innocent customers to become complicit in criminal activities or face serious consequences for refusing to participate. David Kim was a 31-year-old restaurant worker who used a 24-hour laundromat in Los Angeles during late-night hours to accommodate his irregular work schedule in the food service industry, which often required him to work until closing time and handle personal tasks during overnight hours when most businesses were closed. The laundromat where David did his washing was managed by a night supervisor who worked during overnight hours and was responsible for maintaining security, assisting customers, and ensuring that the facility operated smoothly during late-night periods when fewer staff members were present. David had developed a friendly relationship with the night manager. David's laundry routine was regular and predictable, with visits during specific overnight hours that corresponded to his work schedule and allowed him to complete his washing without interfering with his restaurant responsibilities. David trusted the night manager and felt comfortable using the laundromat during overnight hours. But during the second week of October 2022, David began to notice that the night manager was conducting activities that had nothing to do with laundromat operations and appeared to involve illegal enterprises that took advantage of the facility as overnight hours and limited oversight from ownership and management. David's investigation of the night manager, his suspicious activities revealed that the manager was using his position at the laundromat to conduct drug dealing operations that took advantage of the facility's 24-hour accessibility and the manager's control over security and customer access during overnight hours. Ring that notification bell if you've ever trusted a laundromat employee only to discover they were using their position to conduct criminal activities, because what David discovered about this night manager's operation proved that some corrupt employees exploit their authority to force customers to become complicit in illegal activities or face serious consequences for refusing to participate. The situation became more concerning when David realized that the night manager's criminal activities were exposing innocent laundromat customers to serious risks, including the possibility of being present during drug transactions, being mistaken for participants in illegal activities, or being harmed by dangerous individuals involved in the drug dealing operations. David's discovery of the night manager's criminal activities put him in a dangerous position, as the manager became aware of David's knowledge and began to view him as a potential threat to the illegal operations. The night manager's access to the laundromat facility and his control over security systems gave him significant advantages. The situation escalated when the night manager began to pressure David to participate in the drug dealing operations or to provide assistance with the illegal activities in exchange for continued access to the laundromat and protection from the dangerous individuals involved in the criminal enterprise. David realized that the night manager was exploiting his position of trust and authority to force customers to become complicit in criminal activities using their dependence on the laundromat's services and their vulnerability during late-night hours to coerce participation in illegal operations. David's attempts to document the night manager's criminal activities and report them to law enforcement were complicated by the manager's control over the laundromat facility and his ability to monitor customer activities and communications. The situation reached a crisis point when David was directly threatened by the night manager and his criminal associates, who made it clear that his knowledge of their activities would not be tolerated and that his safety would be threatened if he attempted to report their illegal operations. David's escape from the dangerous situation required him to work with law enforcement agencies to provide evidence of the night manager's criminal activities while protecting himself from retaliation by the criminal organization. David's cooperation with the investigation led to the night manager's arrest and the exposure of the drug dealing operations that had been conducted at the laundromat facility, revealing that the manager had been using his position for over 18 months to conduct extensive criminal activities. David's experience taught him that 24-hour laundromat employees could exploit their positions of trust and authority to conduct criminal activities that put innocent customers at risk, and that customers needed to be aware of the potential for employee misconduct during overnight hours. These 4 accounts from 24-hour laundromat customers across America reveal a disturbing truth about late-night laundry facilities. The mundane task of washing clothes can expose you to predators, and criminals who use the isolation, predictability, and vulnerability of overnight customers to identify and attack victims who are focused on routine household tasks and unaware of the dangers surrounding them. Sarah's encounter with a systematic stalker in Chicago proved that some predators use the predictable nature of laundry routines to identify and pursue victims who are vulnerable during late-night household activities. Marcus's discovery of fake employees conducting identity theft in Phoenix demonstrated that some criminal organizations use laundromats as hunting grounds for systematic theft operations that exploit customers' trust in facility staff. Jennifer's exposure to dangerous criminal operations in a Detroit basement laundromat revealed that some laundromats serve as covers for illegal activities that put innocent customers at risk of exposure to hazardous materials and violent confrontations. David's experience with a corrupt night manager running drug operations in Los Angeles showed that some employees exploit their positions to force customers to become complicit in criminal activities. The most chilling aspect of these accounts isn't just the individual dangers themselves. It's the realization that these threats specifically exploit the routine, predictable nature of laundry activities, turning necessary household tasks into opportunities for predators and criminals to identify, target, and attack vulnerable victims. Sarah had no warning that her nursing schedule and predictable laundry routine would attract the attention of a stalker who used 24-hour laundromats as hunting grounds for vulnerable women. Marcus had no indication that his security training would expose him to a criminal organization using fake employee identities to conduct systematic identity theft operations. Jennifer had no clue that her basement laundromat was serving as a cover for dangerous criminal operations that put her at risk of exposure to hazardous materials and violent confrontations with criminals who viewed her as a threat. David had no idea that his trusted night manager was exploiting his position to conduct drug dealing operations and force customers to become complicit in criminal activities. If you're currently using 24-hour laundromats, especially during overnight hours or in unfamiliar locations, if you've noticed suspicious behavior from other customers or employees, or if you felt uncomfortable while doing laundry alone during late-night hours, trust your instincts and remember that maintaining awareness could be the difference between completing your laundry safely and becoming a victim. The next time you need to use a 24-hour laundromat, especially during overnight hours, remember these stories and maintain awareness of your surroundings, other customers, and employees whose behavior seems inappropriate or threatening. Sometimes the most dangerous part of doing laundry isn't the risk of damaged clothes or broken machines. It's the moment when you realize that someone has been watching you, studying your routine and planning to use your predictable household activities as an opportunity to harm you. Before you go, check out the playlist in the description for more true laundromat horror stories that could save your life. Because in the end, the most important thing you can wash at any laundromat is your hands of dangerous situations, and no convenience or cost savings is worth risking your safety in facilities where predators use the accessibility and isolation to identify and attack victims. Comment below if these stories have made you more conscious of laundromat safety, and remember that the best laundry experience is one that gets your clothes clean and gets you home safely. Even if it means staying alert, trusting your instincts, and prioritizing your safety over convenience or routine household habits. Stay safe out there, and remember that laundromats should be places of convenience and community service, not hunting grounds for predators who exploit the trust and vulnerability that make late-night household activities possible.